I think a lot of people who are in this space, in this industry, who have some type of online presence or social following, they are intimidated on some level by the other people out there who are 8% body fat, who do have like 22-inch arms, who have amazing stage-ready bodybuilding pics. Having muscle intelligence, having training knowledge to share with other people doesn't mean you have to also be 8% body fat year-round or ever. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Strong by Design podcast. Hosting today, Coach Chris, and I am interviewing myself today. This is a long time coming solo episode. I've been meaning to do this topic for a while, and it's just been something that has been in my head, kind of rattling around for a bit. Wasn't sure if it was better as a conversation or better just as a kind of me kind of going deep on this with just my own thoughts and feelings about it. And so I'm just going to roll. And so I thank you for joining me today. Thank you for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. Hope today's not your first ever listen to the podcast, but if it is, we welcome you. Thank you so much for landing on today's show. You're probably interested in this topic, particularly fitness and strength and muscle, which is certainly a big part of our audience, while a lot of people listen to us for other reasons, because we talk about family, we talk about God, we talk about health, holistic health, just a little bit of everything. And ultimately, this is Critical Bench's podcast, and we believe that you are strong by design, created in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. And so some of our episodes touch on all three of those elements. Some episodes touch on just one. And today I'm kind of going deep on the one, really living in the fitness area here today, talking about, as I said, something that I've been thinking about on some level, maybe wasn't always sure how to articulate it. And I made some notes for myself so that I could kind of remember where I wanted to go with this. And wonder if you listening have struggled with this before as well. I've been around the scene in the fitness and strength scene for a number of years, since late 90s. So my background as a fitness expert, I go by Coach Chris, or as a strength coach, longtime strength coach here at Critical Bench since 2013. And prior to that, 15 years of working as a personal trainer and strength coach with the public in face-to-face environments, which has looked different. But where did all of that influence come from? My interest in lifting at all? Well, it came from my childhood, and really mostly my older brothers, my big brothers, certainly a little bit from my father as well, who was always into working out and staying fit and strong. But my older brothers, 5 years older than me, identical twins, and they were just awesome, amazing big brothers. I've mentioned them before. My one brother, Bob, has been a guest on the show before, and they were a huge influence for me. I really looked up to them. I have a great relationship with my brother Bob. Unfortunately, my brother Dave passed away several years ago to brain cancer, and but I think about him every single day. Pictures of my brothers, the three of us together, all around my office, and they were wonderful big brothers, and they were always fit and athletic and strong, and looked out for their little brother, me, the pain in the ass. But they were certainly my biggest influences growing up, and I started working out probably around 10 years old because they were working out as 15-year-olds in high school, getting ready for football. And that really that carried with me. I always liked being kind of strong and tough, and making sure everybody else knew I was strong and tough. I was always a talker, still am today, but I typically always backed it up. I mean, I always participated in. I played Pop Warner football and Little League baseball. That was my childhood, and once I got into high school, football and lifting weights kind of became everything, and that carried with me all the way into college. Continued to stay super fit and strong in college. Lived in the fitness center on campus, as well as the garage I had in a house off campus I lived in with my older brothers, actually, and I converted the garage basically into my fitness gym or fitness center, if you will. A heavy bag in there and some loose weights, dumbbells, barbell, plate weight stuff, and would listen to the Rocky IV soundtrack. Yes, I'm willing to say that, along with lots of other good heavy metal music and hard rock and 70s and 80s music and 90s even. But loved being strong and fit through college. Of course, I was a hack lifter like most guys. Took what I learned from high school, from some of the strength coaches we had, and just kind of ran with it, kind of did training my own way. But I'll say that my first big influence, which led to this as a career, was upon graduation of college in 1998. And I got my first fitness job working at a world gym in Stamford, Connecticut. And I was working at the desk, at the front desk, and was exposed to a lot of just great meatheads, and a lot of really smart strength coaches and personal trainers that I was surrounded with, and competitors. And they were all in their own way influences on me, but a few in particular, which I'll get to kind of at the end. I'm going to list out my 5 biggest influences, but I learned a lot from them in conversation and watching them train, their discipline with their diet, all kinds of things. And I really grew a lot from, say, 98 to 2000, being around that atmosphere on a regular basis every day. I worked what felt like 7 days a week, and just opening shifts, getting to the gym at 5 a.m. to open. And it was a fun time in my early 20s. Made a lot of friends, and it's fun to think back at that time, what I was doing. And so I started, working at the desk. I started to train people through, just being a member of or a team member of the club, and eventually led to me going and getting certified, going to workshops and doing some training, in-person trainings, to be able to train people and carry my own personal training insurance and all of that stuff. So sometimes people will say, like, okay, well, what makes you a fitness expert? They'll ask that question. I've been asked that question before many times through our YouTube content or other social platforms, inside our help desk. And it's like anything else. What makes people an expert in something typically is the amount of time they have dedicated to that particular thing, that craft. You could call it the 10,000 hour rule if you want. So after spending obviously a huge portion of my life up to that point into the early 2000s working out, then surrounding myself with those people, working in that environment 45, 55 hours a week, after several years of doing that, eventually, by 2013, when I took a job with Critical Bench, 15 years of working in the fitness space, training clients, being a general manager of a fitness and health center for several years. You become an expert. I led people. I was the head trainer and looked after the personal training program at a facility that I was general manager of. So eventually you're well learned. You have lots of experience behind you, and the passion has to still be there. You know, you can be an expert or have expertise in something, but if you're not passionate about it, I don't know how powerful it'll be or how well received it'll be from people that are trying to learn from you. So I've always prided myself on my enthusiasm and my passion in the work that I do. And so, yeah, I mean, I was first certified with the National Academy of Sports Medicine, or NASM, back in the day. And funny fact, Jay Cutler, four-time Mr. Olympia, was in my my NASM certification 3 or 4 day workshop. This was in person in Norwalk, Connecticut. It was at the Doubletree Hotel. I still remember. And Jay was kind of a nobody at that point. People probably in Connecticut knew who he was, but not so much nationally. But soon after that, obviously he became a monster and started competing against Ronnie for Mr. Olympia titles. So that was fun. Him doing some guest posing, taking his shirt off. Everybody got to. I mean, he was wide. I felt bigger than him because I was a lot taller, but I mean, he was just as wide as a doorway. Just a monster, and obviously really fun bodybuilding competitor for many years to follow. All right, so really, what I want to dig into here are the perceptions that are associated with fitness gurus and popular experts, right? So if I'm declaring myself a fitness expert at this stage of my life. I'm 48 years old. I've been working in this field since I was 21 years old. So it's a long time. And I've been surrounded by a lot of very knowledgeable, very sharp, highly accomplished athletes in the world of bodybuilding, powerlifting, and coaching. And so, but one thing I want to discuss here, and why I don't need anybody else to like ask me layup type questions, is like, I've never been super ripped. Never. I don't think I've ever been under 10% body fat. I maybe mistakenly I was once. I've never competed in a powerlifting meet. I have never competed in a bodybuilding event, nor did I ever really have the desire to. I've competed in other types of events and stuff, like, mud runs and adventure races and stuff like that, just because they're fun. But I never felt the strong pull to do it. Okay. I never felt like I had to do it in order to still be received as an expert or a coach that could be helpful to somebody. Most of the people I worked with were beginner to intermediate level athletes, or men and women. They were not pro athletes or seeking any type of pro level in their training. These were more affluent people typically, or kids of affluent people that were maybe on their way to college and preparing as young athletes for their sport. Or these were people that were probably plus side of 30, 35 to probably say 65, that were very serious about their health and fitness and wanted somebody that would A, motivate them, B, show up, and C, teach them proper technique and put together a fun workout program that they could follow. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. I don't know that just because you're huge and shredded, that makes you a better trainer. In my assessment, no. I think you're either good or you're not, regardless of like your 8% body fat or your 15% body fat. That's a discipline thing, or that's a want thing. It's hard to get to 8% body fat. I'll tell you that much, because I've seen other people do it, and I know how incredibly difficult that is, especially to maintain that. I don't know how much time in my life I've spent between 10 and 15% body fat. Probably certain periods. So even since I've worked here, you can go back. I'll share on the YouTube video for this podcast, I'll share some old clips of me when I was leaner, over 10 years ago or thereabouts, when I did some shirtless content and stuff. And if you go back prior to that, I mean, I was 36 years old making YouTube videos. I've been leaner than that in my life. It just wasn't on record, right? Social media and all that stuff hadn't been around for a heck of a lot, in my 20s, if at all. So I don't have a lot of that stuff to make me more credible as a ripped strength coach. At the same time, so people are and I know I'm all over the place, but this is just the way I talk, right? A mile a minute. If you're wondering, how big are you? I'm 5'11", and I fluctuate from generally 205 to 220 pounds. Just 3 years ago, I lost a bunch of weight just because I was doing I was working with one of our good friends, Will Grazione, and really dialing in, trying to see how low I could get to. And I got down to 191, and I forget what my body fat percentage was, but it dropped significantly into like the middle teens. And so, yeah, probably about 15% body fat that would have been 45 years old. And I felt like you could see stomach muscles, and I felt good definition through my shoulders and arms. And I'm like, it was hard. It was hard to hold myself to 2,150 calories a day. Weighing all my food and I did all that for 5 months. And I'm like, geez, if I kept going, I could probably lose another 10 pounds and really get sliced. But I just didn't have the desire to continue doing that. You really have to want it to maintain a much lower body fat percentage. And if you're all into the aesthetics of it, and when you're younger, certainly that was more important to me. I'm married with 2 children, a 13-year-old and an almost 13-year-old. By the time this releases, he'll just about be 13, and a 9-year-old daughter. And I've been married for 20 years, and I'm not getting ready for the stage. So, it just doesn't have that kind of importance to me right now. I'll say having muscle intelligence, having training knowledge to share with other people doesn't mean you have to also be 8% body fat year-round or ever, look like or be a stage-ready competitor, or have a huge bench, squat, or deadlift. Like, in my life, I've never squatted probably more than 405. Well, no, I think once I was in the mid-4s, so maybe like 460. This is going back again into my 20s when I was pushing the limits. Probably 465, probably deadlifting about the same, and I don't think I've ever benched more than probably 365 pounds. Now, those numbers to a beginner would sound probably pretty impressive, but to a competitive powerlifter or a big-time bodybuilder, those are not very impressive numbers. But I've also mostly maintained an injury-free body up until earlier this past year, when I probably from coaching baseball, I had a tear in my meniscus on my right knee and had to get it repaired. And it feels much better, and I'm fully recovered and back to being really active and doing everything I want to do. But I don't have any shoulder issues. I've never torn my pec. I've never torn my bicep. I've never dealt with a lot of these other issues that people that lift extremely heavy loads, or, and this is another topic, are using anabolic steroids or GH and stuff, are using those things to accomplish those big goals that they have, to push the envelope, to push the limits of what they're capable of. Certainly synthetically, we are able to do that. I've always wanted to maintain that kind of just natural status. And I think looking at me, and most people would never, there's been a few people over the years when I did get leaner that would maybe think, just people I knew in my personal life, maybe people thought that maybe I was doing a little something. But I've never done it. I've never had real interest in it. I've always thought to myself, wow, I could probably be a real freak of nature if I did do stuff. I don't know what my body would be capable of, but at this stage of my life, I mean, I'm a year and a half away from being 50 years old. I don't have any desire to mess with that stuff, because I also have seen the other side of it. And people have very short life expectancy when they get heavily involved in using synthetics and things. And the abuse that it has on your body, the toll that it takes is pretty significant. So another point that I wanted to make with this too is I think a lot of people who are in this space, in this industry, who have some type of online presence or social following, they are intimidated on some level by the other people out there who are 8% body fat, who do have like 22-inch arms, who have, amazing stage-ready bodybuilding pics or awesome numbers from powerlifting or whatever. And that can be very much intimidating to people who are, in their own right, fitness enthusiasts who've done a lot of work at it, who are passionate about it, who've invested years of and dedicated a lot of their time and energy to something that they love, being fit, while at the same time they don't have this hardened physique that is just a jaw dropper for people that just gets a lot of followers. I mean, me personally have very little following. Like my Instagram has like 800 people on it. Okay, people they don't follow me because I'm not doing any like flips. I'm not, benching 600 pounds. I'm not doing a single leg pistol squat, standing on top of a freaking brick or something. I'm not doing tricks, and that's cool if you do that and have a big following. I have people like that I've followed or I've learned from. They can do amazing things. That's awesome for them. I think my whole thing, and I remember hearing this from some clients that I worked with back in my early 20s, and I'll mention this place later, Body Tuning in Darien, Connecticut, when I worked for Ben Prentice, who has an amazing hockey performance center up in Stamford, Connecticut. But I used to hear from clients that they preferred training with me over other coaches and trainers at Body Tuning because they just enjoyed the time they spent with me for that hour. Not that they just got a good workout, that I pushed them, that I motivated them. They just enjoyed the conversation. They enjoyed the back and forth nature of that time together. And that's a big part of working in this space, is you can't be a robot. You can have all the information up in your brain, but if you're not personable, if you're not interested in other people, if you're not a good listener, you are not going to succeed. You are not going to have a big following. You're not going to generate a lot of sessions or a lot of clients. You have to come from a place of service. But it's like our 7 core values that are hanging on my wall over here at Critical Bench. We have 7 core values, and positive attitude is one of them. The other 6 are integrity, gratitude, service, passion, of course. I thought I said passion first. That's the other P. And then decisiveness and faith. And those 7 things together are really complementary, and really kind of create the perfect storm of an individual. But those two P's, the positive attitude and the passion, that's what attracts people. You have to be kind of magnetic in a way. And I think if you don't have that, even if you have all the smarts and all the know-how and all the experience, you're going to lose people and probably not have a successful business. And so those are two, foundational values that we hire and fire with here at Critical Bench. And those are two things that always seem to come easier to me. And I think it really helped me in my along the way on my journey of personal training and working with other people. They could tell that I had a real natural, authentic care for them, and that I also really loved the training. And they would see me in my own workouts and stuff, maybe on off days where they didn't have a session with me. They'd see me pushing myself and enjoying it. And so it just felt more real to them. So I don't know. So what I wanted to touch on earlier briefly was that healthy and fit, to be healthy, truly healthy, and to be fit and to be strong doesn't mean that you're on anabolic steroids, on growth hormone, on TRT, right, which is testosterone replacement therapy. Now, there might be a real need for some of you out there. If you get tested and your testosterone level is really low, then there might be a need for you to do TRT. There might be a need for you if you're highly competitive and you're struggling to get lean enough, or you might get some of the size. You might personally find it a necessity to do some type of anabolic steroids, and there's a whole host of them. I'm sure some of you listening know 5 off the top of your head, but I think I have a screen up over here with some of them. Oral steroids, Anadrol, Oxyndrin, Dianabol, Winstrol, right? Decadurabolin, Durabolin, Depo testosterone, so all these different ones that exist out there that people have used, still use, whether they're being prescribed or you're getting them illegally, whatever that is. I mean, I've been around it. I've seen things. Just never had interest in doing those things because I always felt like, I feel good, I look good. I'm not trying to get, in a bikini bottom and get on stage. I'm not trying to put on a singlet and like deadlift or squat or bench press. So if I'm not trying to do either one of those things competitively, then why would I put all this stuff into my system? I don't know. That's just mine. That's just my way of looking at it. You can do what you want. It's your body, right? But for me, I never felt I needed those things in order to be successful at what I chose to do, and coaching people and being a personal trainer for all those years. So, so as I said, I'm kind of all over the map, but it's just like me talking about a particular topic where I feel like there's just so much out there where you got to look a certain way, you got to present yourself a certain way in order to get the respect and the credibility factor. But I don't know. You might completely disagree with my assessment. Right? You might think, no, you got to be at least 10% body fat. You have to at least be able to do this, this, and this in order to qualify as a legitimate fitness expert. But I think my resume speaks for itself and the people that I've been around and worked with over the years. So speaking of that, the 5 biggest influences in my world in muscle and strength building. Number 1, this was a guy that I got clients from that I met in 1998 at World Gym. And he had a personal training business that he operated out of this World Gym chain. And this man's name is Lloyd Weinstein. And he was so impressive to me back in the days. Then one of the nicest guys you ever met. I got to reach out to him. I haven't talked to this man in like 20 years. He is a 3-time world and 16-time national powerlifting champion. He was on the cover of Powerlifting USA magazine back in the 80s. A monster. I remember him in the late 90s when he was entering a World Masters meet that was going to be in South Africa. And I remember him training for that. And I remember him, I would talk with Lloyd a lot. I mean, I got clients from him. And I remember one day when he was in training for this event, and he had me come over and spot him doing some squats. And he was doing triples. This guy's 155 pounds. He's doing triples with like 450 something pounds on the bar. I mean, and he was doing triple sets, so 3 reps. And I just remember spotting with him the depth and the precision of his squat and how well he moved that weight for 3 reps. And I just remember, like, that's what I need to look like when I squat. So talk about a big influence, man. This guy was like the nicest guy you ever met, 155 pounds, squatting 3 times his body weight for a triple beautifully. I mean, there's not a lot of people on the planet that can do that kind of thing. And so he was just a huge influence on me. His numbers, actually, he's about 155 pounds, I said. He squatted 551, 1 rep max, benched 325, and deadlifted 606. This guy pulled more than 3 times his body weight. He pretty much pulled 4 times his body weight. That's like obscene. Not a lot of people like ever have done such a thing. Because think about like a kind of a typical power lifter, right? In a higher weight class that's 250 pounds. A lot of those guys, they're not deadlifting, squatting, benching anywhere near, or no, take benching out of that. Most people don't bench that much, right? Squatting and deadlifting like maybe double their weight to maybe 3 times, but certainly not 4 times their weight. That's unbelievable. So, Lloyd, if you ever listen to this episode, props to you, man. I've brought you up before in past episodes, I think, but you were legendary and such a great human being. I'll have to reach back out to you. Ben Prentice, I podcasted with a few years back on our show. You go back and listen to that episode. Just search his name, Prentice, Prentiss. The name of his business is Prentice Hockey Performance. That's in Stamford, Connecticut. He works with NHL players. He's worked with lots of different athletes over the years. He was just starting to do a lot of that work in the early 2000s, back when I worked for him from 2000 to almost the end of 2002. And that's where I met another big influence, which is Charles Poliquin. And Charles was quite the character. He's a Canadian strength coach. He's now deceased. He passed away about 6 years ago. He's an author and trained several Olympic and pro athletes. And Charles was brilliant, had a very interesting personality, and he would come to our place to body tuning in Darien, Connecticut. And Ben was a bit of a mentor of his, and Ben started doing some work for him. And I think that's really what kind of kicked off or led Ben on this journey of working with high-level athletes, and still to this day does that work. And but Charles was he would come and visit often, and we did some workshops with him. He would teach us stuff, had some interesting conversations and lunches with him back in that time. And I was very influential. Those were my early mid-20s, so I was really just I ate and slept in the gym, pretty much. Pretty much, especially when I was working at body tuning. I would take naps there. All my meals were there. I was there from 5 in the morning until 8 at night, 5 days a week, and a half day on Saturday. So that was a good time, fun time back in the day. Beyond those two other gentlemen, Mike Willie, who is a kettlebell expert, master. He's unbelievable. He's a strong first team leader. He's FMS2 certified. He's CSCS. He is really truly largely responsible for me getting kettlebell certified RKC back in 2013. If it hadn't been for all the work that I did with him for about a 6-month period, I certainly never would have gotten certified. Just working with technique and form and building up strength and training with him on a weekly basis. He was a huge part of our success at our workshop that we went to in Tallahassee back then. And then there's videos of me doing my snatch test on YouTube. It took me several times, but if you think it's easy to sling a 53-pound or 24-kilo kettlebell over your head 100 times in 5 minutes, then you must be somebody special, because it's one of the harder things I've ever done in my life, was passing that particular part of the certification process was the snatch test. Everything else kind of felt pretty easy, but that was very, very hard, especially having not really had much of a kettlebell background prior to that. Man, that was fun. But I still like doing kettlebell work because it's such a challenge. It is not for the faint of heart to be good with a kettlebell. I have a lot of kettlebell content on our YouTube channel over the years too. And last but not least, certainly not least, is my longtime friend and mentor and boss here at Critical Bench, Mike Westerdahl. We've been friends since the early 90s, 91, when he moved to Connecticut, and we became instant friends over the summer during football season, our sophomore year in high school. And Mike went on to have quite a powerlifting career in the later 2000s. I think about 06 to about 09 or 2010 he was competitive. He ended up having a 630-pound bench in competition. And not too long after that, we got seriously talking, and I ended up getting hired on as a strength coach and content creator here at Critical Bench. And I blinked, and now it's 2024. And here we are 7 years into a podcast, so unbelievable. So Mike has been a huge influence in my life, and I'm grateful for his friendship and, of course, the opportunity to work here at Critical Bench and to share my thoughts and feelings with our amazing listeners. And then last but not least, certainly I said 5, but this is kind of a general one, just co-workers and friends who have competed, the magazines and stuff I used to read back in the 80s and 90s, authors and speakers and different pro athletes that I've met. I mean, I think back when I first moved to Florida in 2002, I became friendly with Darren Charles, who's an amazing IFBB pro competitor. We used to talk daily because he had clients at Fitness First over in Fort Lauderdale, Connecticut, Deerfield Beach, Florida, where I started working with clients when I first moved to Florida. Who else was I've been friendly years back? We used to do a lot of filming with BPAC, Ben Pekulski. Learned a lot from him, and just brilliant guy. Obviously, high level, top 10 type IFBB pro in his day, and still continuing to do a lot of educating and podcasting and stuff. And in fact, the dumbbells we bought off him from his MI40 gym. Back when we started the compound here 7 years ago, pretty fun, 8 years ago. So anyway, I've been around a lot of these folks over the years and really listened to them a lot and learned a lot from them. So that has led certainly to my expertise in this field, and my passion has never ended. I still look forward to a workout. Like I've already planning my workout for today in my head, what I'm going to do. What do I need to do? Where am I weak? What haven't I done in a while? I'm always kind of on the lookout for the kind of that mental assessment, not what I want to do, but what I need to do. And I do try to start most of my workouts with about 10 minutes of something I don't like that damn fan bike. Riding on a fan bike with that resistance high is not pleasurable by any means, but if I push myself hard and do it for 10 minutes, which is a equivalent of about 2 or 3 songs that I like, I can push through it. And then everything else after that is a cakewalk. So anyway, final remarks, okay? Let's wrap this baby up. I will say this. Nutrition, I believe, is 75 to 80% of your overall physical success. So the body that you dream of, the body that you want, 3/4 or more of the work to get there is going to be what you're consuming, what you're putting in your body. I think rest and recovery equates to about 10 or 15% of that overall success and physique, which doesn't leave a lot of room for the other thing that everyone makes the most important, which is your actual strength training. Yes, it's important, but how many hours in a week are you investing in exercise versus how many hours a week are you investing in what you're eating and your sleep, right? And your rest and recovery. You're invested a whole hell of a lot more in those areas than you are in the actual workout and training. Now, you can be a little bit more thoughtful when it comes to creating your programming and the workouts you're going to follow. But ultimately, it's a handful of hours, 5 to 10 hours in a whole week that you're going to be exercising versus, having 3 square full meals every single day, hydrating properly, resting properly, getting quality sleep, all those other things that play such a huge role. So it really comes down to where your focus is, where your discipline is, and how disciplined are you in those things. If you really want to change your physique, you got to change your eating habits. I'm speaking to myself there too. Another thing is surround yourself with the type of lifestyle, success, and physique that you wish to have. People have said this for years. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that's very true. So who are you investing your time in or with? What podcasts are you listening to? What books are you reading? What videos are you watching? Those are influences on you. So, be smart, choose wisely, as they say. If you hang out with drug users and drinkers, lazy people who aren't goal-oriented, who don't have goals, you'll probably never get the body or the mindset that you're seeking. Last couple things. Every day is a new opportunity because we're so good at beating ourselves up for bad choices yesterday. Every day is a new opportunity to get it right. Remind yourself of that because we are our own worst critics. So the long-lasting habits and the consistency will always win the day. Being disciplined regardless of what it is you're chasing is by far the most vital to your success. So you got to make physical movement and proper nutrition a priority and incorporate the baby steps every time you're adopting a new habit. So start small and build on it. Start small. Don't bite off more than you can chew if you really want it to stick. If it's a brand new thing, it feels a little funky in the beginning, a little awkward, not super just part of your day yet. In order to make it part of your day, get up 10 minutes earlier if you're trying to do more stuff early in the day, right? Or go to bed 10 minutes earlier or 20 minutes earlier, whatever. It's micro changes, not these big massive corrections. They never seem to last, right? So go at it small, find success with that, and then you can continue to modify, make changes as you go. Lastly, which I already mentioned, is my 10 minutes of hated exercises to begin my workout. That's something that I've adopted, and I really enjoy doing that. It's like a pat on the back. Once that's done, I'm like, man, the rest of this workout's cakewalk. I've gotten a lot better in recent times skipping chips and snacks and crap I don't need to get me through the day, just focusing on my main courses, my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner, and then how clean can I be for those 3 things. For example, what I ate today, I had 3 eggs with 2 little sausages. That was my breakfast. I didn't need the bread. I had some cups of coffee with that and a huge glass of water. My lunch today was I had cut up 2 fresh nectarines that were delicious. Nectarine's kind of like a peach. Had sex with another fruit. I forget what fruit that would be. Anyway, man, so good. and with like 3 big chicken sausage things that my wife cooked up that are really good. And that was my lunch. And you know what's really cool is like eating until you're 80% satisfied, still being like a little hungry. And that's when you stop eating. Stop eating when you're not full, right? Stop eating before you get there, okay? Go to bed a little hungry. That's okay. Drink a little cup of water. Sometimes I have a little half cup of milk just to wash down like my nighttime vitamins. Just as like a guilty pleasure, if you will, a little half glass of whole milk, if I need a little something. But the less eating you do after 7, 8 o'clock at night, the better, because you usually don't need those calories much anymore, unless you had a long day and you just haven't eaten much all day. And lastly, of course, drink a ton of water. It's really hard to drink too much. Speaking of that, I need a sip. Super, super hard to drink too much water. Could it be done? Sure, it can be done. But most people don't overconsume water. Most people are walking around dehydrated. I think the stats somewhere in the 80 to 90% of people walking around dehydrated, constant state of dehydration. So if you have a headache, drink more water. If you feel a little fuzzy, a little woozy, drink more water. I start every day with water and I end every day with water, and a lot in between. So anyway, that's my take on some stuff. Said some good things today, I think. Said some weird stuff, some forgettable things, and maybe some memorable things. Hopefully you got something out of this. I haven't done a solo episode in quite a while, but I do want to get back to doing more of these, as I've also told Jared, got to get you doing some solos. So look forward to some of those coming from Jared in the coming weeks and months. So I just appreciate you tuning in today to the Strong by Design podcast. It's always a pleasure. I have a lot to say, a lot's going around in my brain, and so it feels good to just have this platform to get those things out and to hopefully connect with people on the other side who have those same thoughts and feelings. So hope you enjoyed this. Please leave a rating or a review. Share this episode with a friend or family member, somebody. We greatly appreciate it here at Critical Bench. I'll be talking with you really soon. God bless. Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.